So we have this big debate about the Enlightenment. You hear this all the time, that a lot of people, especially on the left, but also on the right, Jonah Goldberg wrote a book about it, Steven Pinker has written a book about it, say everything was bad before the Enlightenment. Before that, it was the Dark Ages. So you can even tell in the language, which was invented at the time, it is propaganda language. It was the Dark Ages, and then we had the Enlightenment. Everything got lighter. But people like me, romantics, believe that, yes, things got better after the Enlightenment. We invented science. It was wonderful. We invented a world that could change and all this stuff. But also, everything comes at a price, and we lost something. Now, I've talked about the rainbow. I'm going to try and bring all this together if I can. When we talk about something that is both breath and spirit at the same time, I've talked about the rainbow. And I just recently read this in Barfield, even though I've said it before on the air. The rainbow is caused by the sun hitting a prism, water, and by the human eye perceiving the rainbow. There is no rainbow without the human eye. There is no rainbow without the human eye. Now, each of us may see the colors in the rainbow a little bit different, but we all see the rainbow. We have a limited ability to create the rainbow. We create the rainbow by seeing it, but it's a limited ability because we can't see a Mack truck, because then we're just nuts or a leftist. So rainbows exist when we see them, but that's also true of a tree, right? A tree doesn't look like a tree until a human being sees it, right? When we see it, it becomes a tree. The same is true of light. Light can be either a wave or a particle. It's not until it is perceived that it becomes one or the other. Quantum, the smallest particles there are, they don't have a location. They don't have a velocity until we decide what that is. A tree, you know the old expression, when a tree falls in a forest, if there's no one around to hear it, does it make a sound? The answer is no. It makes the makings of a sound. It gives you the makings of a sound, but not until we hear it. The way we perceive the creation is part of creation, okay? We are creating the world all the time, right? It's a limited part of creation. We can only create out of the materials we have. If I call you by a different pronoun, it will not change your sex. If you feel like a different sex, it does not change your sex. But if I love you, that changes the way I see you, and it changes the way you are in my life, right? So we have a certain amount of ability to create the world all the time. So before the Enlightenment, people saw spirit and matter as one thing. And because of that, it led them to say, oh, this person is mentally ill, therefore he must be possessed by demons. Or there's lightning, and that must mean that demons are sending the lightning. And this led to a lot of problems. When they would have lightning, they would send some poor monk up into the church tower to ring bells and scare off the demons. And of course, the lightning would hit the highest point and kill the poor monk, right? So that didn't work out so well, right? And so when you see the world imbued with spirit, it can lead to superstition because you're not sure what you're seeing. And with the Enlightenment, one of the reasons we celebrate the Enlightenment, the rise of science and the rise of objective thinking, came the idea that there was an objective truth beyond our perception. And no, lightning was caused by electrical charges, right? And the better thing to do than sending the poor monk into the tower would be to put a lightning rod. And that is a great advantage over dead monks. Better to have a lightning rod than a dead monk, right? So that's makes you feel like, yeah, this is a great thing. We have now moved forward from the Dark Ages into a period of light. But the thing is, all those things that we're seeing, right? The electricity, the germs that cause disease, the brain misfunction that might cause mental illness, those things only exist when we see them. There is no such thing as a disease unless you're experiencing it. It's not a disease. It's not a disease to the bacteria. It's only a disease because of your experience of that. And because we, who are romantics, believe in the human experience, believe that this is the important thing about life, that this is what God has created. And there's a lot of scientific reason. We'll talk about that next week with Stephen Myers. There's a lot of scientific reason to believe this to be the case. Because all of the universe has moved to create life and conscious life that can understand the world, we believe it's important that it's important how we see things. So the people who thrive on the Enlightenment say, oh, wow, that was really dark before they saw it as, mental illness was a demon. Now we know that mental illness is a brain malfunction. So now we know something objective, and those other things were superstition. And that is why you hear someone, for instance, like Ben Shapiro will say, facts don't care about your feelings, okay? When Ben says that, what Ben is doing is he is defending modernism, post-Enlightenment, against postmodernism, which says, since all those things were just feelings, we're in complete control of them. Since everything was not that was not objective truth was an emotional truth, then we can just change anything we want. We can say, I can say I'm a woman, poof, I'm a woman. I can just say that abortion is right and abortion will be morally right. After all, what is morality but something that exists in the human mind? And Ben is saying, no, modernism had it right. There was a truth, but we're just searching for truth. Ben is right about this. What I'm talking about is something beyond modernism that is not postmodernism. I'm talking about returning to seeing the world as the creation of God, but not seeing it with the superstitions of the Middle Ages and before and the ancients, right? A new way of seeing the world, the way Jesus wants us to see the world. And how do we do that? Well, we practice it, just like seeing human beings differently. And the way we practice it is through communion. We take communion, we participate in a ceremony that transforms bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ. It's not an accident that it was at the end of the Middle Ages that Protestants started to say, well, it's not really changing into the body and blood of Christ, it's just a symbol. And what I'm arguing is that those two things are the same thing, that we have the capacity to see, to taste, to feel the body and blood of Jesus Christ in bread and wine. And we have the capacity to see it everywhere, to see God's handiwork everywhere. It is something we work on. That's why that's why the liturgy is so important to me. That's why the Mass is so important to me. When I go into the Mass, I don't just sit there and mutter the words. I focus. I put myself out of my head. A very difficult thing to do. You really have to get an eviction notice to put myself out of my head because it's a big self. It's a big head. You got to get out of there, clear your mind, and start to participate in the ceremony. Ceremonies are the way we act out knowledge. We act out the knowledge of God. When you're charitable people, when you love people, when you forgive people, you might say, well, I'm really a hypocrite because deep down I don't love this person. I'm not forgiving this person. I don't feel like giving charity. It's not hypocrisy. It's practice. You practice something until you become it. And the same is true with seeing the body and blood of Jesus Christ in bread and wine, and seeing the glory of God in the heavens, and seeing the living Spirit in everything that's made, the language of God in matter. All of that takes practice, and that's what we're trying to do, and that's what I believe Christianity is. Christianity is, when it first started, Christianity was called the way. It is a way of seeing. It is a way of seeing that transforms you, and yes, that will transform the world, but the first thing is for you to start walking in the way and practicing the way. If you enjoyed this video, and who could not enjoy this video, give it a like and subscribe, and you'll get more good stuff like this.